you describe the eversion and pronation that you're talking about, so
Sure.
when I do watch the fight, I can kind of look for it?
When we were talking about earlier, like if you have a higher arch, that foot tripod, so you would think it'd act like a spring, right? And it can absorb, but what happens is it's actually rigid, so the foot can't unlock as much. So it does act like a spring, but it really doesn't allow you the same great range of motion that you are when you're flat-footed. Now, the problem with that is, it's just like, think about hypermobility and hypomobility. If most sprinters are hypomobile, right? They're really stiff. So they can store a lot of energy in their connective tissue. So when we think about it from that perspective, they can store a lot of potential energy. Now, the problem is they don't have quite the same mobility. Then when someone's hypermobile, they have greater range of motion. So let's look at it from that perspective. Let's kind of say as an analogous to hypermobility and flat foot. Doesn't mean you're hypermobile in your body, but your foot is hypermobile. So you get greater range of motion, you can store more energy. When you look at it, and if we did a study and we looked at NFL players or NBA players and we looked at Achilles tendon tears, I'd be willing to wager money that 70% or more are flat-footed individuals. So when you evert, that's the subtalar joint. I don't have my foot model here. So, but if you look, when that subtalar joint everts, then the whole foot pronates. You know, a lot of people use those terms synonymously, but they're not. So that subtalar joint's going to evert, so collapse, and then the whole foot's going to actually pronate. All right. So, I mean, we can get one of you guys to take your shoes off, jump up on the table, and we'll take a look at your foot and do a quick foot analysis. So you
already
can
have my
see
shoes off.
Here comes Frodo.
Well, seeing as you're the only person in the room that can stand on the table without smashing their head. There's
All
no
right,
way
go ahead. Step up there.
Here, Tex.
All right. So what I need you to do, first off, is turn sideways so I can see a side view of your foot. Yes, just like that. Good. Now, just put your weight on that. So you can see that he has a neutral arch, right? So the viewers can see that. You can see that he's got a slight arch. It's not rigid. So now if he had an actual flat foot, what you would see is it would cave, right? So his subtalar joint, there you go. And then notice, go back to neutral. Go back to neutral. Guys, watch his knee. Look right at his knee, right below his patella. So then look, and now go ahead and evert again. And pronate that foot. Look at how his knee and his tibia actually internally rotates. Yeah. So now what happens is you end up like this and you have a torque pressure here that's actually caused from the foot. So guess what's being stretched right there?
Hey,
the
Doc,
ACL.
Have you ever watched much offensive line play in the NFL?
Yes.
This is they teach that position as like a part of the technique that like they take and drive the knee in real hard and actually try to teach people to play kind of they call it duck footed, where your toe is out and then they have you collapse your knee in. And I fought against that my entire NFL career because I was always told them, I'm like, dude, you're putting these guys in a bad position. I can't generate force here. So a vertical foot, big toe on the ground, knee tracking slightly over your instep, where I can actually get my glute engaged. And I would watch guys in this position, but the problem is they're 350 pounds, so they could absorb a bull rush. But just mechanics wise and from a pain standpoint and just everything, like to teach this position, like I would pull my hair out when I'd see people do it. And I was like, man, this is going to go upstream, everything from your hips to your knees to your low back. You're going to have so many problems, and it's shitty position. But they still teach this position in high school and college and the NFL. And I used to get on these offensive line coaches and I'd be like, hey, I realize you're our coach, but you never played this fucking game. And this is terrible position. And what you're doing is you're just teaching something that you heard from Howard Mudd in this clinic film, and it's fucking bullshit. Play the game.
Yeah, let's break that down. So let's break it down biomechanically, right? Because that's the problem with research, is it takes longer. And what happens is the anecdotal findings, and whoever is the loudest voice, right, or has the biggest name is the one that's usually listened to. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That's back-ass words, right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, we see it on the internet. The guy with the most posts on the forum tends to be the greatest expert, or the person with the most followers tends to know the most.
And really doesn't. So let's go back to that because that's an excellent point. So if you were to go what we call, and Emily probably mentioned this, low gear. So what I want you to do is actually externally rotate your foot right now.
No, I mean literally lift it up
your
and
whole
down.
foot. Yeah. Now that's where you go. Now kind of lean forward and let the knee drop in.
Yeah, no, don't push your knee forward. Collapse it in. Like go this.
Yes,
yeah.
There you go. So now what happens is, think about the base of support. Yeah. So because his foot is in what we call a low gear position, he does have a greater base of support, but his knee is stuck in the middle. Yeah. Right. So anecdotally, you would think, hey, you're going to get greater, position there. But now what you're doing is you're making the connective tissue absorb the actual forces, and they can only absorb so much force. When an opponent that's just as strong or stronger than you, because most offensive linemen are huge, right? I mean, they say they weigh 320, 330, but they're weighing 360, 380, 400, and they're so big. But then when someone else hits you that's going faster, and that force is now applied there. So from a biomechanical position, you may have a greater support, but the problem is the connective tissue can't withstand it. So you should be in the high gear position, which is what you were saying.
Yeah, Doc, just real quick for the listeners, this probably makes no sense if you're driving in your car, going to get your minivan washed. We are filming this, so keep an eye on Power Athlete YouTube, and this clip will be up there.
Doc, I was a smaller athletic guy, so at about 306, 310 pounds, I played guard and tackle and was considered a smaller, more athletic offensive lineman. And I used to regularly go up against guys who were 350, 360 pounds. And what was pretty interesting is I figured out pretty quick, just mechanically, how I was stronger to be able to, not only stop force, but apply force and be able to hit. And almost like figuring out like a race car, where the lug nuts are loose. Yep. By going against people every day. And I remember telling the coach, I'm like, if I do that technique, not only am I going to get hurt, but I'm going to fucking lose terribly. And so I ended up figuring out an efficient way to play, which is why we coach so hard with the toes forward, athletic position, knee over the instep, focusing on getting that big toe, because they actually teach guys to lift their toes to play on their mid-step and their heel. And I'm like, I can't get my glute engaged. And then rotating the knee in to try to like get my heel a little bit out so I can get torque. All of these things, like loading the connective tissues, coming up, playing low, coming up with a flat. I mean, all of this stuff was developed within a technique on actually this allowed me to be successful versus guys that were 40, 50 pounds bigger than me. But I think the problem is that the guys in the NFL, it's become this, genetic pool of freaks that, when you're 400 pounds, 380 pounds, and you got a, 7-foot wingspan, you're 6'7", it doesn't really matter what you do. You just got to get in somebody's fucking way long enough for 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And so the problem is they're coaching technique based off of this. And I remember being like, dude, this is awful.
Yeah.
And, so.
No, I'm on the same page with that. That would definitely. So what we're going to do something really quick, since you were talking about engaging the glute. So what we're going to do is have you now face the camera, both feet face the camera. Yep. So now what I want you to do is bend your knees slightly. And then I want you to, not that much. Yep. Now, usually we do short foot with 1 foot at a time. I want you to lift your toes up and spread your toes out. Spread them out. Now what I want you to do is literally drive your first or your great toe into the actual table and kind of squeeze a little bit, but try not to squeeze too much with all your, just your great toe. Activate. That's short foot. What I want you to do is close your eyes. Do you feel that in your glutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
He said yes, ladies and gentlemen. Text, would you like me to feel your glutes to confirm?
I don't know if I touch those things. Ooh, so big, so luscious.
Yeah. Okay, so now you can get off the table. But yes, that's short foot, and that will engage. So exactly what we were just talking about, that's right. If you're not pushing through the great toe. Now what's interesting.